Hi, I'm Dr. Gareth Moore. I'm the creator of the Puzzle Mix website, and in this series I'm going to be showing you how to solve some of the puzzles on the site, of which there are many to choose from. And I'm going to start today with a puzzle type called Hitori, which is one of my actual favourites, but it's not very well known. So I'm going to start by explaining what the rules are. So you have a grid here of numbers, and what you have to do is eliminate some of the numbers so no number appears more than once in any row or column. So if you're solving along a bit of paper, you'd cross them out, but on the website here you can colour them black. So when you colour a number black, it's crossed out. So for example, in this row here, there are 3 1s. And what I need to do is I need to colour in or shade in some of them so that there's only 1 left in the row. And when you finish the grid, it will be mostly the numbers will be regularly selected, and then some will be shaded like this. And there is one other rule, well in fact there are 2 other rules. The first other rule is that these shaded numbers cannot touch, so this would be not allowed. They can touch diagonally. And also that you have to leave all the unshaded numbers in one large single region. So for example here, they are all one region, but if I did this, then that white area would be sealed off. And there might be more complicated versions of that. For example, I might have done that, and then this wouldn't be valid because I wouldn't be able to move between all the different white squares just by moving left, right, up or down between them. So that's the basic gist of the puzzle. Now when I open it on the Puzzle Mix website, everything's a sort of dull orange colour because I haven't yet marked the puzzle, marked any of the numbers as definitely not crossed out or definitely crossed out. So the aim is really to work out which ones to cross out. And to solve the puzzle on the Puzzle Mix website, you only need to mark the shaded ones. It's not necessary to mark the unshaded ones, although you can if you wish. It helps you solve the puzzle. So let's start by looking at all the numbers that repeat in rows and columns, because this is a good place to begin, because we know we have to shade in any number that repeats so that there's only 1 left. So for example, in this top row, as I say, there's 3 1s here. Therefore 2 of them need to be shaded. And here, for example, in this row, there's 2 8s. So at least one of them needs to be shaded. Now, if you've got 2 numbers next to each other, like this, that are shaded, that repeat, that are the same, then you know one has to be shaded. And because of the rule that shaded numbers can't touch, one of the other number next to it would have to be unshaded. So in this particular case, we either have this one shaded and this one unshaded, or this one shaded and this one's unshaded. And in fact, you may notice that in this case, because of the rule that all squares have to connect, this square here would always have to be white, no matter which way round that was, because of the untouching rule, because of the need for stuff to be connected. And in fact, this is the kind of way you can start solving the puzzle. If I now look at what the inference of that is, that this square is unshaded, and then because we can't repeat a number on a row or column, that means that this square here would have to be shaded. And because shaded squares can't touch, I would have to then mark the squares next to it as unshaded, or I wouldn't be able to shade them, which in turn would give me another shaded square. Now, that's one way to start. Another way to begin a Hitori puzzle is to look at pairs of numbers that are separated by a different number. So for example here, this square in the middle has to be unshaded, because if it wasn't shaded, then I have 2 repeated squares, 2 repeated numbers on that row, and that wouldn't be allowed. So in this case, that number in the middle has to be unshaded. Now here in this particular puzzle that didn't help, but elsewhere sometimes it will. So let's have a look around this grid, see what we can do. I think I'll point out actually a fairly useful observation in a lot of Hitori puzzles as well here. If you've got 2 numbers that are the same on either side of what I like to call a gate, because you have a single path through, then they create a gate. So you can never have both of these shaded, because if you did, then the number in the middle would be trapped. So one of these has to be white. One of them, you don't know which one. But the observation that one of them has to be white will force any of that copies of that number in that row or column to be shaded. So this 8 has to be shaded. Now, because of the rules of Hitori, where all the regions are connected, we now know these squares can't be shaded. And because they can't touch, this square can't be shaded. And now we can start to shade in some more squares because of the no repeat rule. And in fact, it becomes relatively straightforward to make progress on this puzzle. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Right, now here's another one of these gate things I was talking about. And I will explain why I call it a gate a bit better here. Now, because if you're coming up out of here and you want to get out of this region, you can't pass through here. One of these has to be shaded. So this region cannot connect through this gap here. We can consider, if you like, this is closed. Or perhaps it'd be better to mark it like that. And similarly here, there's threes here. You can't get through here. This region is closed. This area is closed here. It's a gate. You can't get through. So we know that both of these squares must be white, because otherwise we can't escape from this region. So let's unmark those blue squares and mark in here. This has to be white. This has to be white. And when I say white, I mean unshaded. Right. So now we can do some further deductions, which are a lot easier if you're using the puzzle mix solving aids, which, as you can see, highlight things for you. They don't solve the puzzle for you, they just make some of the most obvious things clearer to see. Right, so here, for example, this has to be white, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to escape from this area. And similarly here. Now, an interesting property of a Hitori puzzle is that, like all good logic puzzles, it only has one solution. So in fact, if a number doesn't repeat in the row or column, has to be unshaded in the final grid if the puzzle has a unique solution. If it didn't, then sometimes you could shade or not shade it according to your whim, but in a good puzzle the solution is forced, so you could, if you want, mark them all white to start with just so they don't distract you, but that doesn't benefit you in any real way unless it's confusing you. Now, as an interesting point here, I can create, if this was shaded, I'd be creating a gate here. Now, we know with a gate you can't pass through it. Gate, just to remind you, is two numbers that are the same either side of a passage, which is blocking off exit otherwise. So if I was to do that, you wouldn't be able to get into this region here, because either that's shaded or that's shaded. Therefore we know that is not shaded, which means that is shaded. And because of the need to keep all regions connected, unshaded, shaded, shaded, and we're finished. And that is how you solve an Hitori puzzle.